Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the PSGL E-Series. It's Friday night. It's round number 7 at the Bahrain Grand Prix at Yas Marina. My name's Joshua Davis, and alongside me once again, as it has been all season, is Dan Field. Dan, how are we doing?
Doing fantastic as always. I love this circuit, of course, in Abu Dhabi. Normally the end of the Formula One season. Gone a little bit earlier here for round number 7. 4 races to go. Championship really is heating up. Williams fell off the top last time out. They had their worst race. They had their worst race all season, and it was room for Pedreno to pick up the pieces. He took the win last week, but of course there is some big news in regards to some qualifying bans for drivers tonight. We'll get onto that in a minute, but Josh, really look forward to this one.
Absolutely. So it was a bit of a mix-up all the way through. Williams dropping points, mainly with Alvaro Carreton, all the way down in P11 after contact with one of the Haas drivers. I think that might have been Matthias van Erven into turn 1. I'll run you down how that came out. Then obviously Pedreno does keep his win. Dylan Warren is in P2. Ron Haar keeps the P3, so the podium is not really disturbed. Matthias van Erven stayed P4, even with a 5-second penalty. Shanaka Clay was 5th. Thomas Gal was 6th. Paradzic was 7th. He got a 3-second time penalty removed with Leonard Goetze in 8th. Isfan Pookie gets a 5-second penalty. He drops down to P9 with Conor Muir in P10. Leroy Brown 11th with Joost Noordijk in... Alvaro Carreton was 11th. Leroy Brown is 12th. Joost Noordijk is 13th. Felipe Sousa is 14th. Jack Laverty 15th with Courtney N'Golo in 16th. Luke Smith was 17th. Obviously Courtney N'Golo as well getting a 5-second penalty. Manestra Mena was 18th. Alfie Butcher was 19th. And Mirko Siriano was the top 20. Move over to the standings. I'm just quickly read them out for you. It is Williams still topping the time sheets though, but it is 273 points. Playing to par now is 207. Race Clutch sit third with 183 with Haas in P4 and 176. Veloce sits P5 with 165 to Viscera Esports 137. Team TF10 sits 7th with 123. RHG sits 8th on 110. SRT sit 9th on 85. And FVR still at the back with 68. Abu Dhabi then, it's a fantastic circuit. It has been caused a little bit of controversy in 2021. Obviously, this is the first time we'll be racing on the new formats on the F1 22 game. Could spark some fireworks out there, but it is usually a really good one then, Dan.
Yeah, ever since Formula One change and being on the F1 22 game, ever since the change to the circuit has been active, it's been incredibly fun to drive on, and it makes for some great racing. I think change was absolutely necessary in order to keep the flow of the circuit up. So really happy with this circuit, and hopefully is going to bring some fantastic racing this evening. Qualifying 1 is about to get underway. It's going to be the 18-minute session to determine who is in that top 15. Of course, the bottom 5 will be eliminated, but Josh, 4 qualifying bans headed into this one, so this is going to be a pretty low-key session.
Yeah, 4 qualifying bans will be awarded tonight. So only one driver in the bottom 16 will be knocked out of qualifying. 20th, 19th, 18th and 17th will all be knocked out, obviously with driver changes heading to that one. I'll let you know the grid right about now as we'll go through them. Isfan Pookie and Louis Welsh, the big name there, will be coming back into the squad. Zan van Deeken for RHG, Max Vissel for TF10, Jack West for Par now, Daniel Kjelsen for Race Clutch, Felipe Sousa for VSR with Joost Noordijk back at RHG, Alvaro Carreton for Williams, Duncan Hofland at Mercedes, Thomas Ron Haar comes back for Haas to try and get them further up the table. Otis Lawrence comes back for Veloce, posting some pretty quick laps as I've been listening alongside him and talking to him all the way through. Dylan Warren is in 13th for TF10 tonight. Olaf Soko comes in for Race Clutch. Timon Shooter at Veloce. Shanaka Clay back at Williams with Courtney N'Golo at FVR. Piotr Stachlet comes back in for Haas. Nadi Perez makes up the FVR squad. And Leroy Brown joins Louis Welsh for the first change for SRT in quite a long while, as Max Vissel is the first one to come out on the intermediate compound tyres. Pretty standard. Make sure nothing's squeaking or etching. Same with Courtney N'Golo and Nadi Perez as he breaks the 50-metre wall there. So might get him in a little bit of trouble if someone decides to put that into the box. But so far, he'll be making his first couple of runs, obviously on the intermediate compound tyres. So not expecting the world records to come out just yet, but just to see where everything is on the setup and everything on his rig.
Yeah, typically around about the 10-minute mark is when we start to see drivers fit on the red wall soft compound of tyre, then come out and try and set their initial lap. So everyone just making sure that their setups are okay. Of course, Q1 Not going to be the most exciting session in the world. That's due to the fact that 4 drivers got qualifying bans this evening. The first one will be going to Louis Welch due to the fact that he is being subbed in late this evening. And then the rest of them, one of them would be for the, or 2 of them are actually for impeding during qualifying. One of them goes to a VSR driver. I believe that it is going to be Felipe Sousa that is taking that one. That was for Leonard Goethe blocking Connemure on his hot lap last time out in Canada. The same goes for Ruben Pedreño on Dylan Warren. That has netted one of the Race Clutch drivers a ban. And then Luke Smith was able to take another qualifying ban for Race Clutch by crashing out on purpose in qualifying. And that, Josh, means that we are not going to see either Race Clutch competitor making it out of the first session of qualifying and being third in the championship, with Haas and Veloce within touching distance, starting from the very back of the grid. That is going to be detrimental to their championship challenge. So it is going to be tricky for them. They've got to get there. They've got to put the work in this evening. Daniel Shelson, Olaf Soshko, they have their work cut out for them.
They absolutely do. Obviously, coming off the highs from their first win, Ruben Pedreño last time out at Canada, a brilliant win. He did last time out, and obviously coming back to pretty much 19th and 20th, wherever they decide to retire the car in qualifying one. It's not the greatest of plans for them, so they're really going to have to put all the stops in to make sure they get themselves up the field. And as you said, Dan, P3 in the standings, they're looking to try and take this championship all the way to the end. Parnell are looking absolutely solid as well with their 5th and 6th last time out. Tamascal really pulling his backside out for that one last time out from P11. They really did have a poor qualifying last week at Canada's. Max Whistle tops the timing sheets of 128.344 for him, and he's coming back for TF10 as well. The Aston Martin development driver, of course, for their esports season. And definitely looking to try and solidify himself in the esports season in the next couple of seasons to come. Gordon Ngolo deciding to back out of that one alongside his teammate of Nardi Perez. So only Max Whistle out on the circuit so far. The Red Bull, obviously famous around here for the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix from the incidents that happened on the last lap of the 2021 season. We're not going to go into that now. 2 years ago, I think we should probably put it past it and go from there. Max Whistle topping the timesheet so far. But looking at this one, obviously Louis Welsh, I think will have to serve a qualifying ban as well for their late sign-ups as well. Xander Van Deeken comes in as well. But your main antagonist is probably going to look at definitely Jack West and also his Parnell compatriot of Istvan Pukki. Probably one of their strongest pairings all season as it has been, alongside Williams, obviously, Alvaro Carreton and Shanaka Clay. They're really going to have to pull the stops out today, Jack Jack West and also Istvan Pukki there, Dan, because they know that the championship might be up for grabs. They may not have thought about it going into the season. They thought they could probably split in to about a midfield table, but right now the championship might look a little bit more of a possibility.
Yeah, at this point, you're definitely right about that one. Of course, Istvan Pukki last week, he took a 5-second time penalty in the race. He finished on circuit, and I believe it was P7. I think Parnell had a fantastic showing of P6 and P7. Unfortunately, a 5-second time penalty. Actually, no, he came 5th. He was ahead of his teammate Tamas, and unfortunately, he's gone down the order into P9. So Parnell did lose out a few points. Might affect how he drives this evening. He could have that in the back of his mind, but I don't believe it'll affect him too much. But this is definitely one of the highest quality grids I think we've seen all season long. Istvan Pukki, Jack West making up the team for Parnell. We know that Race Clutch, despite some of their qualifying bans, Daniel Shelson and Olaf Soshko, they're very talented drivers in their own right. One driver I'm very excited to be seeing here is, of course, Time and Shooter, a name that is very well known from back in the PlayStation days, and he was a part of Alfa Romeo, I believe, in 2020 or 2021. I believe it was the latter of the two, but he is a very talented driver. I'm extremely excited to be commentating over him this evening. And once again, it's been what feels like ages at this point, as Daniel Shelson, he retires in the pit lane, serving his qualifying ban. Interesting that he didn't come for his outlap. He is allowed one outlap, then immediately dive into the pit lane just to check that everything is in working order. The same, of course, goes for all of the other drivers serving a qualifying ban. But at the moment, with 11 minutes left to go, it's a ghost town out on circuit.
Yep, Ghost Town as usual. No one coming out to put any lap times out. We've seen this for quite a while, all the way through the season. Just everyone even it quite late to get their lap times out. But obviously going into that one, just speaking about obviously time and shooter, as you said, 2020 was part of the Alfa Romeo setup. Had that one season, did pretty decent. Just tried to get himself a couple of points and making his way through. Obviously, last time he raced was at Zandvoort at the Dutch Grand Prix. Just got himself about. Hopefully, he can try and get some more points for Veloce up on the board tonight. He's got his teammate Otis Lawrence in P12 as well at the moment. Yet to set a lap time, of course. 19 drivers are yet to get a lap time going in, but it's going to be interesting. Obviously, Otis, the new rising star of F1 Esports, I think that's fair to say. Obviously, still not old enough to compete in F1 Esports or the F1 Esports Challenges or the Pro Series, however it works nowadays. But he's definitely got a lot to play for tonight. He can definitely put him up there with the big boys, probably looking at maybe a top 3 position tonight, as we're still not seeing any times coming in on the board. Great action, says Riley. It absolutely is. You know, you get this absolutely fantastic feel every time you come into qualifying one here in the PSGL E-Series. We do have some action down at Ferrari, though. Is it Cordon or Nardi Perez? I think it might be Nardi Perez. Yes, it is. Soka retires from the session as well for Race Clutch. That makes up their qualifying ban, as Nardi Perez will be the first one to venture out on the soft compound tyres.
Well, we'll see what he can do here, as he is the first one to exit the pit. He's riding in neutral underneath the circuit. One of the most unique pit exits, I think, on the Formula 1 calendar. It goes underneath the circuit, completely cuts out the first 2 corners, feeds you in to turn number 3, which is a long-winded, it's a fast right-hander, and if drivers that counteracts their line, maybe if they're running 2x2 through there, someone coming out of the pits could definitely cause some carnage. I'll have to look out for that come at race time. He's going through the hairpin now, where we could see a lot of overtakes, but going for a dive bomb through there doesn't make too much sense when you got this long, I believe it's a kilometre long straight headed down in towards turn number 6. As at the braking zone, I think this is where we're going to see a lot of the overtakes. Switchback opportunity through the chicane as well. If you run a bit too, the driver in front runs a little bit too deep, you can cut back, try to get the better run, and then to use the DRS through here in towards turns number 8 and 9. A fantastic part of the circuit. The second sector, Josh, is going to be incredible for racing. And as Nardi Perez continues on his lap, more drivers are headed out behind him. There's a big gaggle of cars coming down at that straight. 2 Alfa Romeos, that's the R8G boys. One of the SRT drivers, which will be Leroy Brown, and then one of the Red Bulls of either Dylan Moran or Max Wiesel. So plenty of action left to be had as Nardi Perez, he's about to begin his lap, headed through the 3rd sector. He'll slow down, try and get that little bit of extra heat into the tyres. We'll see what he can do.
Here we go then. Round the final corner comes Nardi Perez, and we'll take a lap at the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix here in the Yas Marina circuit, heading into turn 1. They're breaking about 100 metre board, staying in 5th gear, pull to the left hand side, and the car drift out to the right, flick to the left, flick towards the right. You can ride that curve as much as you can, which feeds you in to the left hand side, and then a new sort of hairpin, if you like, of the spoon corner cuts out that sort of Mickey Mouse chicane from seasons gone by. Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton battling out there on the last lap of the Grand Prix to decide the championship, and had a pretty decent battle all the way up through there. Again in turn 1, well, coming up to this turn here where Lewis was forced off, braking hard then into this next corner. No braking zones as Max Vissel's, to Max Vissel's happiness, as he moves to the left and towards the right, on towards the curve. The DRS will hit you right about there, and the DRS will carry you all the way through this next couple of corners into sector 2. The new sort of spoon corner as well, once again cuts out that chicane once again through towards the left hand side, keeping that traction as best as you can. Another purple sector 2, of course, and you flip back towards the hotel section. New profiling once again. It's a little bit more open, a little bit more speed you can carry through there as you move to the left and back towards the right once again, letting the car drift out close to the barriers once again. This is flat out in this new sort of profiling of track once again into the final couple of corners. Flick on towards the curb, back onto the curb once again, keep the car straight, and the 23.109 is your lap with Nardi Perez. We rode on board straight back to Time and Shooter, who was even quicker to a 23.012. Max Wissel still out there on that intermediate run. One of the Williams just coming by. That Schnacke Clay already into the 22s, a 22.741 for him. With the Alfa Romeos, Sanne van Deeken puts it into P3 with a 23.0 22.099. His teammate of Joost Noordijk puts it on the front row, a 22.921 for him. Dylan Warren P3 with a 22.942, so about 200ths difference between the two of them. His teammate Max Whistle next, and he goes P2 with a 22.834. Alvaro Caraton beats his teammate and gets it into the 22.6s, immediately replaced by Otis Lawrence, a 22.622 for the youngster. And I said just before, he's posting quite a lot of good lap times and beating the likes of Caraton and Clay and amongst others, and I think Thomas Ronha as well. So make sure to look out for Otis Lawrence, because he can definitely snatch a pole position here if he can get himself up the positions. Chuck West puts it into P4. That is all the lap times done, and so far it's Otis Lawrence leading the way by about 800ths of a second.
Very nice indeed for Otis Lawrence. So far, he's a good margin clear from his teammate Timon Shooter. And given that we're losing 4 drivers in this session, I doubt that anyone really outside of that, outside of the bottom 5 at the minute. Currently, sorry, let me start again here. Cordon no disrespect to him, but he is a driver that we typically see getting eliminated quite early in qualifying, so maybe a lot of the guys at the top of the order and in that midfield, they might not be feeling too nervous at the minute. The only driver at risk for the time being is Leroy Brown on a 1:23.150. That being said, that's an incredible lap time, so close to the rest of the grid. There's Cordon going to file out in this one. It's difficult to see, but of course he did come into the pit lane at the end of his lap, so something didn't go well for the FPR representative. But Josh, with these qualifying bans, big opportunities for the guys like FPR and SRT, who are typically the ones getting knocked out in the early parts of qualifying. We could see some big things from them.
We absolutely could. Obviously, probably their strongest grid they've had all season. Leroy Brown has pretty much been at every race this season. Louis Welsh as well, the pad goat, as he has been referred to for quite a while. Obviously, very, very new. Well, I say very, very new. He's not new at all. He's the veteran of league racing, is Mr. Welsh. Obviously notified on the pad, and I'm sure he's using the pad tonight as well. Saw his pace fly on 2020 and 2021. Took a little bit of a break in 22, but he's back for SRT for the PSGL E-Series. One of the best team championships on the board so far. Dynamic 79, which I've just noticed in the chat, said that Clay will do a 22.7. He's hit the nail right on the head, as Shanaka Clay has done a 22.741 there. What a time, and what a plet that was from Dynamic. Put 50 quid on that, you win a little bit of money. Che, though, with Otis Lawrence still top the time sheets there, 22.622 for him. Caraton on a 22.698, so it's agonisingly close between the two of them. 3/4 of a tenth is Alvaro Caraton on at the moment. Louis Welsh is serving a qualifying ban as well, so Cordon N'Golo will be the only man outside of the inside of the top 20, or bottom 16 if you like, which will be allowed to set a lap time. Otis Lawrence, Alvaro Caraton, West, Whistle and Ronha all retiring from the session at 22.805. Leroy Brown currently on a 23.150. I'm probably going to assume if you're inside the top 10 on a very low 23.0, like Duncan Hoffland, like Timon Shooter, and like Petr Stachlek, alongside probably not Isvan Puki, might just want to go out again, you're probably going to be seeing yourself safe into Q1 just from all the qualifying bans down.
Absolutely. So that's what we were saying earlier about how this is going to be a little bit of a low-key session. Most drivers not going to feel all that much pressure to come out onto the circuit and set another lap. Sander Van Dyken and Leroy Brown see it necessary to come out onto track, but everyone pretty much inside that top 10 is going to be safe in qualifying through here, so we'll have to wait and see, as the bottom 4 at this current moment in time don't count Louis Welch in that, actually. Because of course he is permitted one out lap. He'll have to come into the pit lane at the end and then serve his qualifying ban. But yeah, we have to watch out for the likes of Cordon N'Golo, Leroy Brown, Nardi Perez and Xander Van Dyken. Those are the guys that are at risk at the minute. Isvan Puki, Piotr Stahelek and Timon Shooter. They're coming out onto the track just to be safe through here, but Josh, they are using an extra set of tyres for just one position that we'll be losing in qualifying. I don't know if it's worth it for those guys, but I guess they are all very close, so it is better to be safe than sorry. But as Leroy Brown comes across the line, he'll begin his lap. He's currently in 15th. He's safe for the time being, but with a 1:23.150 of Cordon N'Golo is able to beat that one there, he will be eliminated from this session. So Leroy Brown has got to put his finger out as he heads into the second sector.
Absolutely so. 36,000 up on his personal best in Sector 1. So he's going to have to find something in Sector 2 just to make sure he solidifies himself into Q2. He's got a risk of N'Golo going a little bit quicker. Here we go down into the DRS section for the second time this race. Braking hard under the lights, through to the left and through towards the right, hitting that curb as much as low as you can and riding that curb all the way down the exit, which the DRS hits you once again under the Yes Marina board, under the F122 board, as much boards as you like, an old layout of a circuit that was never being used. Louis Roush retires from the session. That solidifies his qualifying ban, so N'Golo will have to try and get something out of that car if he wants to see himself into Q2. So does Leroy Brown as he's making his way through Sector 3 once again. Another hotel section. He will go riding on towards the curbs on the right hand side, which fruits back to the left hand side, taking as much curb as you can for the right hand side, staying tight towards the barrier as you head into the final couple of corners. Leroy Brown on a 1 minute 22.23.025 puts it into P11. That will do for Leroy Brown, sees himself into Q2. Xander Van Deeken puts it to P8. He's safely through it as well. We flick on over to N'Golo. The checker flag is now out. Can he knock his counterparts of Nardi Perez out of Q1 at the moment? He's going to ride his way through to the barriers in towards the final couple of corners. Fully flat out for that right-hander as you head to the final couple of corners. Braking hard for the right and heading up towards the line. And then N'Golo, can he see himself through into Q3? You bet he can. P7. That's more than enough. 22.878. And into Q3 he will go as one of the Hasses slowing down. That might be Piotr Staszek, I think it is. Slowing down. He's actually had a crash. He spun out the final couple of corners.
Oh dear, so that puts Nardi Perez out of qualifying because he has retired from the session. Istvan Pukki comes to the line. He goes into P5. Piotr Staszek, despite his incident, he will survive in this session. The bottom five consists of Nardi Perez, Louis Welch, Daniel Shelson, Felipe Sousa, and Olaf Soshko. And Piotr Staszek, Leroy Brown, Duncan Hoffland, they are all surviving. Good thing, actually, for Duncan Hoffland and Dylan Warren, given that they didn't come out onto the circuit. They did drop a little bit down the order through here, and I think if enough drivers were to improve on their lap, Duncan Hoffland might have been out of this qualifying session, but he does live to fight another day. We'll see as they head into Q2. The top 15 advance, and will decide who is going to make it into the final parts of qualifying, with the top 10 from that Q2 session will be fighting out for pole position.
There you go then. Otis Lawrence topping the time sheets there by about 76 thousandths of a second to Alvaro Caraton in P2. Shinaka Clay makes it a Williams 2-3 once again. Very, very close indeed. Followed by their biggest rivals so far apart now. Jack West in P4, Istvan Pukki in P5, then a shooter, Vissel, Ronhar, N'Golo, Noordijk, Van Dijken, Warren, Hoffland, Brown, Stachelek, and leaving the session, Perez, Welch, and the other three drivers who got knocked out in qualifying, Olaf Soko, Daniel Kjelsen, and Felipe Sousa as well. We'll be back right now into Q2. And we will see who will take the top spot and who will be knocked out in the closest battle for qualifying we will have, apart from Q3. So we'll have it a little bit more closer together this time around, as no one will be on a qualifying ban. We'll be ready to go for Q number 2 then, Dan.
Yep, and as expected, all the drivers are going to be coming out straight away in this session. We typically see this in Q2, but this is not a fresh set of tyres. These were the tyres that they would have qualified in Q1 on, so they are a scrub set. They're not going to be going as quick in this part of qualifying, but of course we'll see what they can do as the session progresses and everyone files out onto the circuit. It's only Istvan Pukki and Leroy Brown that stay in their pit box. One of the Alfa Romeos, that's an RAG driver of Xander Van Dijken, is the first one out. He's followed by the two Hasses of Thomas Ronhar and Piotr Staszek, and look at them all filing through turn at number 5. They could have a short little race down this kilometre-long straight in towards the braking zone at turn number 6, where, Josh, we're going to see most of the overtakes through here. I believe this is the corner that Devon Butler had his crash in the story mode of F1 2021, if I'm not mistaken. High drama around this Abu Dhabi circuit. You know, when you think about incidences through here, a lot of people would think about Max and Lewis, but no, I think about Devon Butler. I mean, that was a tough day for us all as Xander Van Dijken through the final sector. We'll see what he can do on this set of the tyres, and they are just doing a run on the scrub sets to set a delta, because it does give them that little psychological advantage through there, that if they are improving when they are using the fresh set of tyres, if they see they're improving, it's going to be a little bit of an ego boost, and maybe mean they'll be a little bit more confident, a bit more committed on their lap, and all for the better. Sander Van Dijken through the final corner will get his lap started as he heads into turn 1.
Here we go then. Sander Van Dijken heading into sector 1, then flying towards the left and flying towards the right, heading towards those curves as much as you can in that Alfa Romeo car. Ferrari HE heading into sector 1, then a 17.356 to kick us off. He heads into the hairpin through the left-hand side, taking it nice and easy on the wider line to get the best run out onto the straight. DRS will be elected to you now. Just behind him, one of the Hasses, either of Thomas Ronhart or Piotr Stachlek, heading into the braking zone. Then no braking markers thanks to Max Fissel, so he's going to have to pick as best he can where he can brake for that Alfa Romeo racing machine. DRS will be enabled once again, heading up towards the back straight, which opens to another hairpin, a sort of spoon uphill corner, if you like, similar to Zandvoort, just a little bit flatter on the exit for our drivers. Fifth gear action, heading into sixth, heading on towards the curves once again as you fly towards the hotel section and into sector 3, braking hard for the right-hander, much more flat these days. You can take it with a little bit more attackingness in your driving style, but you still have to be fairly cautious on the traction. Fully attacking out of the hotel section, then you head into the final couple of corners, flat for the penultimate, still have to brake for the final corner, into fourth gear, staying tight towards the curves, staying tight towards the left-hand side. A shortest run is a 23.490, and I'm sure that's on a scrub set. Piotr Stachlek also on a scrub set, Thomas Ronhart and Joost Noordijk, everyone pretty much on a scrub set of tyres right now. Zotis Lawrence crosses the line, goes pole 23.190 for him, as everyone's starting to get their lap times in order. Dylan Warren P4, one of the Ferraris. That's Courtney Golo into P1 there, 23.095. Really good from the FER team. Again, probably hinting on a scrub set of tyres, as you usually do see in these qualifying sessions. Time and Shooter puts it into P4. That is pretty much everyone done. Max Vissel and interestingly Shanaka Clay on a, invalidating their runs early on. And with everyone on the scrub set, we'll see much quicker tyres going on. But so far, it's FER with Courtney Golo topping the time sheets by about just over a tenth of a second.
Very impressed with Courtney Golo in this session, considering that he was right down to the wire in Q1, getting himself comfortable into the second part of qualifying. He's ahead of Otis Lawrence, who topped that first session. And if this is indeed on a scrub set of the tyres, Courtney Golo's got to be very happy with that lap, and we'll see what he can do as he comes back into the pit lane at the end of this in lap. Once they're all fitted, set of the fresh soft compound of tyre, we will really begin to see their true pace. Currently in the drop zone is 5 drivers, yet to set a lap time at the moment. It's both Parnell Racing boys of East Van Pookie and Jack West, one of the TF10 drivers of Max Vissel, Williams of Shanaka Clay, and the SRT man of Leroy Brown. See what they can do, and it definitely does put a little bit of pressure on the guys that are a little bit lower down in that top 10 of the current order. Duncan Hoffman, Zander Van Dijken, and Piotr Stachlek, and Time and Shooter, they're all definitely going to be quite nervous at the potential of all of those guys going quicker than them. But with under 10 minutes left to go, all of the drivers, as quick as they came out onto the track, dive back into the pit lane. We'll see what they can do as they will begin strap on a fresh set of the tyres and go once again.
Absolutely so. As the fresh compound tyres will probably be used in these next couple of runs, expecting probably 3 runs in this qualifying 2 session. We might see just the 2 from some of these guys. Probably looking at about Otis Lawrence, Alvaro Caraton, especially from Jack West as well, to see just where the pace is. They want to do at least 1 and done. Thomas Runner as well will be looking for a 1 done. Obviously on the scrub set of tyres, they'll have to go again because a 23.095 will definitely see yourself out of Q2. Once the fresh tyres start to come on immediately, we see Duncan Hoffman coming out of the pits for Mercedes and VSR. Again with Courtney Golo, goes through once again, interrupted though by the Aston Martin of Leroy Brown, as he'll come out back again for their second runs here in qualifying, and it's led by Piotr Stachlek so far in the Haas F1 Esports machine, and he will lead the first couple of runs here in qualifying 2 on the fresh set of the soft compound tyres. And we will see what we're going to be seeing in these competitive times. Then we saw a 22. We saw the 22, so 22.6 from Otis Lawrence last time in Q1. It might be maybe in a smidgen to see a 22.5 here, maybe, Dan.
Yeah, possibly. And for Piotr Stahelek's case, he just wants to be comfortable inside that top 10 and not have to go out for another run in this session. He just about survived in Q1. A lot of pressure is currently riding on him, especially at the fact that both race clutch drivers eliminated in Q1 due to the fact that they were serving their qualifying bans. That means that Haas and Veloce have really got to make the most of this qualifying to get ahead of the race clutch boys and then see if they can bridge that gap, try and get third in this championship. Piotr Stahelek, I think the pressure is just that little bit higher than the likes of Otis Lawrence and Thomas Ronho, who have seemed to be very comfortable in qualifying thus far. It's pretty much just been one and dones for them so far this evening, and Otis Lawrence especially looks to be the strongest he looks to be the strongest around this Abu Dhabi circuit. As now Piotr Stahelek, he heads on his lap. We'll see what he can do as he heads in towards the first two corners. A very short first sector, completely flat through here, and then ever so slightly, he's not even going to lift off in turn at number 3. Used to have to lift off ever so slightly through there. Formerly, of course, this was a chicane, but now it leads into the hairpin, where we're going to see a lot of guys taking varying lines, trying to get the best run possible on to this straight. It's currently improving by just over 0.2 of a second, so a good omen for the Polish driver as he heads down in towards turn number 6 and 7 and 8. We'll see what he can do as he exits through here onto the next straight.
Here we go then. Piotr Stahelek, the quickest guys in Poland so far. Obviously, really close with Tomek Bradzic as well. Obviously, with the Polish F1 series, and I think he might become runners-up in that series. Currently 0.2 down though in Sector 2, so this might just be a sort of a get-gone lap for the Polishman of Piotr Stahelek. We'll wait and see if he finds anything in Sector 3. Heading out of the hotel section, flicking to the right and a flick towards the left. Going on towards the hotel section under the barriers and heading up towards the final couple of corners, and flat out for the right, braking for the final corner. Heading out of the final corner, then staying tight towards the left-hand side. Across the line for Piotr Stahelek, he is down. Oh no, he gains actually 0.2 with a 23.575. Otis Lawrence on a 22.422. Look at that from Otis Lawrence, a brilliant lap from him there. Then Duncan Hoffland comes in to P2 at 22.753 for him. One of the Williams, that's Alvaro Caratona, 22.479. So close. Thomas Runner on a 4.74. No one can touch Otis Lawrence at this moment in time. Jost Norek P4 for him on a 22.593. Time and Shooter across the line, P6, 22.738. Here comes Shanaka Clay. Can he rival anything? No, he can't. P5 at 22.653 for him. Max Vissel P4, 22.508. Dylan Warren at 22.688. Here comes Xander Van Deeken, P11, 22.843. Jack West, P10, 22.748. That is everyone. And Otis Lawrence once again showing what he is all about and putting about half a tenth on the F1 Esports guys.
Yeah, absolutely incredible stuff from Otis Lawrence. He's, it's been very impressive so far this evening. He topped Q1, currently leading the way in Q2. His teammate at the minute of Time and Shooter just about surviving in P9. He's ahead of Jack West, who is just about 5 thousandths clear of Duncan Hoffland. Currently joined in the drop zone by Xander Van Dyken, Colin N'Golo, Leroy Brown and Piotr Stahelek, who's a long way off the back of anyone else. And that was through turn at number 7. He had a slight snap of the steering. I think he lost control through there. Maybe got on the throttle a little bit too early, but that put an end to his lap. That's why we saw him go from 0.2 improvement all of a sudden to losing 0.2 in that second sector. He lost a lot of time through there as Otis Lawrence, he retires in the pit lane now. He believes he is safe into the next section. I'd say that's true for the top 5. Shanaka Clay, Dylan Warren, Istvan Pukki, Thomas Shooter and Jack West, I think, Josh, are going to have to go again. So I'd say the 1 minute 22.5s is where you are going to be safe. With a few guys not setting representative lap times of their true pace, could see a very competitive end to Q2.
Yeah, Jost Norek just on the bubble there on a 22.593. So we'll wait and see if he decides to risk it and retire, will go out for one more lap. Definitely Lawrence and Ronho have already retired already. They're safe into qualifying 3. Probably Alvaro Caraton and Max Wissel as well will join them, as you said, Dan. But yeah, no, Joost Noordijk just on the bubble there. Shanaka downwards will definitely have to go again on a 6.53. It's just interesting. He has prepped a fresh set of the soft compound tyres just now. We'll have to see if he decides to go out again or not. But definitely Stachelek on an interesting lap there. Not sure what happens on him. 4 tenths down on Leroy Brown at the moment. To Corden N'Golo, to Zanna Van Deeken and Duncan Hofland. As Caraton retires from the session. Pretty standard there. Straight back in to qualifying 3. As we see more action. One of the McLarens, that's definitely Time and Shooter coming out for one more lap. Definitely needs that one. Currently in P9. Looking pretty interesting if he wants to get a good run to go into Q3. Currently a 100th quicker than Jack West. At the moment in P10. He's going to need something. So is this Van Pookie. And Parnell are probably going to have to find something big if they want to try and take it to their Williams Esports rivals. It's a tough order, but let's see if they can do it. Tommy Shooter starts his final runs and final preparations for his Q2 run. Let's see if he can go through into Q3. So does Leroy Brown. So does a RHG driver. Not sure who it is just yet. I think that's Zanna Van Deeken alongside Corden N'Golo. And one of the Parnell boys, I think, might be Van Pookie. No, it's not. It's Jack West.
Yep, so Max Wissel and Joost Noordijk, despite the fact they haven't retired so far, they are sitting in the pit lane with just 2 minutes left to go in this session. Max Wissel is coming out though, and we'll see what he can do. I believe Joost Noordijk still sitting in his box alongside all of the top 4 who are not coming out in this session. In fact, I can see his little red blip on the mini-map there, so we will be seeing the top 3 retiring from this session. The rest of the runners going to be coming out on to circuit. Is definitely going to be a bit touch and go for Joost Noordijk. Of course, being, he's just coming out of the pit lane with 1.5 minutes left to go. I do believe he is going to make it to the flag, but he might have to push ever so slightly on his hot lap. Of course, his fellow countrymen of Time and Shooter, the pair of them coming up from the PlayStation platform, and I remember commentating over both Time and Shooter and Joost Noordijk all the way back in F1 2019 in a small little league called F1 Racing League, a very basic name indeed, but the pair of them fighting at the front. We'll see if they can fight in towards Q3. The pair of them safe for the time being, but Time and Shooter definitely in a spot of bother. He's in 9th place at the minute, only improving by 1,000th of a second in that first sector, but given the fact that you are going flat out mostly through there, not going to be too much of an issue for him. Definitely sector 3 is where he'll have to think the most about his lap. Very tricky, very technical through there as he heads in towards the chicane at turn number 6. Slight lock up on the inside front left, but it's not going to impact his lap all too much. He made the corner and onto this straight. He's got a good run through here. Now opening up the DRS. He's got no drivers to give him dirty air in front with just 30 seconds left to go at the end of sector 2. It's a bigger improvement, still not by much. He's less than a 10th up on his previous best lap, but if we can carry this momentum in towards the final parts of this lap, we'll see what he can do as now he heads through here. Can he get himself out that spot of danger?
Here you go then, Time and Shooter under the hotel section, crumbing towards the barriers, under the Rolex barrier, flat out for the right, braking on the final corner. Time and Shooter is going to have to hope he gets through into Q3. The checkered flag is out into P6. Oh, so touch and go. We'll have to wait and see. Leroy Brown is P12. He is out of qualifying for definite. Shanaka Clay is next out of the final couple of corners. Just under a 10th up in Sector 2. Can he find anything in Sector 3? He can find P5 at 22.508. Surely safe through. Max Wissel has done the same time as one as previous runs. Zanna Van Deeken, P6 for him. Jack West, P11, he is out of qualifying. Dylan Warren, P7, 22.576 for him. Here comes Corden N'Golo as well. It's a P7, 22.569 for him. We wait to see what Max Wissel can do. He rounds the final couple of corners now. Quarter of a 10th up. He goes pole position, 22.408. Look at that from Max Wissel. Brilliant time there. Van Pookie hits up into P8. We'll wait and see what Peter Stachelek can do. Can he get himself through into Q3? No, he cannot. And it is a shot qualifying there. Peter Stachelek and Time and Shooter out in Q2. Here comes Joost Noordijk. Don't think he improved. We'll have to wait and see as he is P11th. He did not improve. So a big shock to the system there as we get into the results. It's Max Vissel topping the timing sheets. Look how close it is. Otis Lawrence 14,000 back. Thomas Ronna 66,000 back. Alvaro Caraton 700 back. Shanaka Clay at 10th in P5. Xander Van Dijk in P6. Corden N'Golo in 7th. Istvan Pukki is 8th. Duncan Hofland is 9th with Dylan Warren in 10. And out in Q2, Joost Noordijk, Timon Shooter, Pieter Stachnek, Jack West and Leroy Brown. A very, very strong set of drivers out very early on.
Yeah, Joost Noordijk, Timon Shooter and Piotr Stachelek, all a part of the pro teams, and it's definitely caused a mix-up in this grid. TF10 having a fantastic qualifying so far, both their drivers in Q3. Fair play as well to Corden N'Golo, getting himself in Q3. He's also going to be joined by Istvan Pukki, and I believe Jack West unfortunately eliminated in this session. The other driver not a part of the pro teams is Duncan Hofland. That was a very tight end to Q2. The entire field spread separated by less than 4/10 of a second. It is certainly a good omen for what we're about to see in Q3. All the drivers going hell for leather in this 12-minute session, fighting out for pole position. And I, for one, Josh, very excited to get underway.
Here we go then. Absolutely 12 minutes of flat-out laps coming to you live from Abu Dhabi in the United Arab Emirates in the Middle East of the world. And it is Istvan Pukki, Xander Van Dijk, Max Vissel, Alvaro Caraton, Duncan Hofland, Thomas Ronha, Otis Lawrence, Dylan Warren, Shanaka Clay and Corden N'Golo who'll be fighting it out for pole position here in Abu Dhabi. And correct me if I'm wrong, but Corden N'Golo, I haven't seen his name pop up in qualifying 3 for a long time, if not ever. But we'll have to see how he will go then. And as we wait for the first couple of runs to come into qualifying 3, and it's interesting to see who will take the first venture out. Everyone's still pretty quiet early doors. Obviously 1 minute into qualifying 3. Not anyone out such yet. We'll have to wait and see when people will come out. Put your predictions in the chat. Who you think will be on pole position for the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. Dan, let's get your predictions in just before we get going.
Going to be a tough one this evening. Of course, it's a very mixed up qualifying order. I think it'd be silly to look past Otis Lawrence. I'm a very silly man. I'm going to go with Alvaro Caraton to take pole position. We've not typically seen him so far in qualifying in Q1 and Q2. We've not seen him right at the sharp end of the order, but he's seen himself comfortable inside that top 10. I think he's hiding a little bit of pace. Maybe the sandbag's going to come off in this Q3 session. I'll go with the Spaniard to take pole position.
Caraton then is Dan's prediction. Let us know who you think will be in pole position in the chat. Max Vissel for pole position instead of Shazoo Frankie. That's definitely not a bad shout at all. Obviously, he has some bags of pace and top the timing sheets in Q3. Otis Lawrence has been on huge form as well in Q1. Can definitely get the job done. Thomas Ronner as well. Never writes him out as well. I think I'm going to go with Otis for this one, but it's definitely going to be close. And after 3 minutes of qualifying 3, no one else on track just yet. I'm not sure if they've run out of tyres or they just want to set them very, very late on. But still, no one eager to get out of the pit lane. We'll have to wait and see who will come out, as we actually do have some action. It's Xander Van Dijk, who's making his way out of the pit box now.
Yep, Xander Van Dijk, a name I'm very happy to see in this Q3 session. He's worked very hard since his PlayStation days. I remember him going by the name of Ballina, I think his former name used to be, and now of course he's adopted his real name of Xander Van Dijk. But I'm very happy to see him in this Q3 session. I do hope the best for him, as we see a lot of other drivers coming out of the pit lane now. As soon as the session hits 9 minutes to go, Xander Van Dijk, he's going to have the track completely to himself for the first part of his lap. Istvan Pukki just behind him on circuit. Then Corden N'Golo is actually making his second Q3 appearance in a row in the PSGL E-Series. He was in Q3 in Canada, and he really does. He is very impressive, I would say. And I think he did have a pretty good race last time out in Canada. I'm just going to actually check to see where the FBR representative ended up finishing. I think for the most of the race, he was inside that top 10. I can't particularly remember if he had anything affecting him. And yeah, he had a 5-second time penalty. Of course, it was for speeding in the pit lane. Hopefully, it's a little bit easier around this circuit. It's not into that final corner where a lot of the guys pretty much just bomb it into the pits. So he should escape from the 5-second time penalty trap this evening. But really looking forward seeing what he can do, mixing it in with all of these top team drivers and the esports representatives. Fair play to the community teams.
Absolutely so. Parnell probably deserve the biggest thumbs up there. P2 in the standings so far. Obviously, you were expecting most of the pro teams to pretty much blitz the competition and be a flat-out fight for them in the top 5, and you'd probably see the bottom 5, all the community teams. But Parnell have been absolutely fantastic, picking up the positions wherever they go and getting the job done and find themselves into P2. We run on board with Xander Van Deeken then as he heads into Sector 2, flicking towards the left and flick towards the right once again as he head into the DRS positions under the banner of the As Marina circuit, under the checker flag line of an old layouts that they might have introduced, did not decide to run with it. 52.681 in Sector 2 as you fly under the hairpin and heading up towards the curves as you meet the hotel section in a couple corners time. Flat out for the right, a little bit of a kink towards the right once again as you flick back to the left under the hotel section, right in the curves as you flick over to the left hand side once again. Stay tight towards the barriers as much as you can, not too tight, Mark Webber style of 2010, and set the fires alive quite literally. Round the final corner comes Xander Van Deeken to do a 1 minute 23.051. Pretty iffy start. They can definitely get a lot quicker. Isfan Pookie will be next across the line, flying towards the hotel section right about now. The man who's been in a lot of form quite recently, has had a lot of good wins quite recently over on PSGL F1, the Belgium Grand Prix, his first ever victory in top split PSGL, and hoping for something a little bit more here in the E-Series. Right in the final corner comes Pookie, 23.187 for him. Duncan Hofland is next across the line. He runs it back now, 22.483. That is more like it from what we are seeing. Shanaka Clay, 22.371. That's the quickest we've seen all day. Corden Ngolo right in the final corner now. P4 for him. There goes Otis Torres, 22.349. There you go. Here comes Alvaro Caraton. What can he do? Puts it to P1, 22.252. Here comes Thomas Ronner, P2 for him, 22.383. I think that was 338. Sorry. Dylan Warren, P4 for him. Here comes Max Vissel across the line, P3, 22.345. So close there. And Dan, your top prediction currently setting the pace on a 22.252. Thomas Ronner is P2 on a 22.338. Max Vissel, Otis Lawrence, Dylan Warren, Shanaka Clay, Duncan Hofland, Xander Van Deeken, Isfan Pookie, and Corden Ngolo. And that is a pretty tasty first couple of laps in the session. And it is Alvaro Caraton taking the lead by about 85 thousandths of a second.
Very nice from Caraton thus far, and he's put himself a decent margin ahead of Thomas Ronhar and Max Wiesel. But that top 6, Josh, looking very close at the moment. Shanaka Clay is just over a tenth off his teammate for the time being, so a lot can change as they head into the final 5 minutes of qualifying. All of the runners now coming back into the pit lane will fit on a fresh set of soft compound of tyre. This is going to be the fastest that they are going to get this evening. We'll have to wait and see what the pole time is going to be. I don't believe we're going to see 1 minute 21. I think it is very audacious. A possible 22.1, maybe a 22.0. We'll have to wait and see. But of course, that question will be answered in just a few minutes' time. Alvaro Caraton really is setting the pace. Williams all season have looked very strong as a unit, however, as a team, you know, as an individual, Alvaro Caraton has been incredibly talented, and he has been the man taking a lot of the wins, a lot of the points for this Williams team. We'll see if he's able to do so tonight. Of course, that's no disrespect to Shanaka Clay and Will Lewis. The entire team plays a part in their almost 70-point margin over the team in P2, currently occupied by Parnell Racing. I wonder, Josh, are they going to extend that tonight? We'll have to wait and see. But so far, the signs are looking good. They sit 1 and 6.
Yeah, 1 and 6 for Williams. Currently 9 and 11 for Par. Now we have just noticing on the qualifying, Thomas Ronhar did do a 21.9 in PSGL F1 over on the second round at the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. So we could see a 21 here. Obviously, that broke the F1 Esports pole time record. So it might be a rush if he can get 4 tenths on his lap, but the impossible is can be possible because it has been done before. I'll have to wait and see. Barry Boromand did a 22.0, so we might be seeing the low 22 zeros from Alvaro Carreton if he can find 2/10 in that lap. But as you said, I'm probably looking maybe at a low 22.1, maybe a high 22.0. But we'll have to wait and see. As one of the Williams guys already out first, I believe. That is Shanaka Clay. Yes, it is. Currently a little bit off the pace so far. Currently P6 from his standards. 22.371 for him down the bottom. He's just been mixing in and out at the moment. But we'll have to wait and see how he will do. Shanaka Clay, the first man on board. Stan Van Deeken currently sitting P8. He's just come out once again. His Cumberfall Storm is now over. We can get the final couple of runs in qualifying 3.
Yep, Shanaka Clay coming out a little bit earlier than the rest of the grid. We typically see around about maybe 2 minutes is the point where all of the drivers are out on circuit. So Shanaka Clay might have fueled the car up a little bit extra, in case he makes a mistake on his first initial attempt, he can run it back and recharge the battery, then go once again. We'll see how this all pans out for him, but if he sets his lap on his current set, perfect. He'll have everything in order. Maybe also doing this to avoid the traffic. You can see in that first and second sector as 8 cars, all very close on that same straight altogether. And of course, in that final sector, when they want to slow down and get out of each other's way, that could cause some issues if you're in a gaggle of cars. But Shanaka Clay now through the final sector, where it really does get technical around this Abu Dhabi circuit. Well, we're not going to see too many battles, but possibly a lot of drivers in qualifying making mistakes on their runs. Of course, a lot of runoff through here as well. If you run ever so slightly wide, you won't be in the walls, but you will be off that track and getting an invalidation. But through now the final corner, Shanaka Clay is going to get his lap underway with 1 minute left to go in this session as he heads in towards the first corner, keeping it in fourth and short shifting up into fifth, riding the curbs as much as you can through this part of the circuit and flat out through turn number 3. Very nice indeed from Shanaka Clay. Looks calm and collected on this lap, and he's up by just about 300ths of a second. We'll see what he can do as a very late apex through turn number 5. We'll get the best run possible down in towards turn number 6, reaching speeds of excess up to 200 miles per hour at the braking zone. 201, 202, 203 at the braking zone for Shanaka Clay. Very nice indeed from him. Low winds, I'd suspect, on board at that Williams, but we'll see what he can do as he heads now onto this second straight, opening up the DRS in towards the third sector now. We'll see what his improvement is before the final sector now. We'll see it is going to be, he's down ever so slightly, 1,000th off his previous best, Josh. We'll see if he's able to improve the clock. It's about to strike 0.
He's going to have to. His current teammate of Alvaro Carreton sitting on a 22.252. Checker flag is now out here in Q3 as he masters the hotel section. It's an invalidation. Shanaka Clay has lost it. He's gone a little bit too wide, and that is his lap over and done with, and I'm sure he'll be absolutely kicking himself for that one. He rides the final corner. What would have it been? It would have been a 22.291, which would have put him on the front row. Here comes Stan Van Deeken. Oh, big snap, and he's lost the car out of the final corner, and a big accident for Stan Van Deeken. Would have been a good sign, I'm sure, but he's lost it out of the final corner. Here comes Otis Lawrenson round in the final corner now, about just under 2/10 of a second up in his personal best, and hits it to a 22.133. There you go then. Otis Lawrence sets the times running. Duncan Hoffland is next as well. P4 for him. Next is Gordon Ngolo. He runs the final corner for Ferrari across the line. P8 for him. Next is, I believe, Max Vissel. No, it's Dylan Warren. P3 for him. Next now is Max Vissel. He crosses the line. P3. Here comes Estefan Pookie. What can he do for Bar now? P7. Next is Alvaro Carreton. Next across the line. P2. Here comes Thomas Ronner. Can he cause anything special? He goes pole position. I think that was on the times. Yes, it was. Thomas Ronner, pole position once again on Abu Dhabi, gets the job done, and it is a 121.984.
Wow.
What a lap that was. 4/10 of an improvement. If you've not heard of him now, there you go. Thomas Ronner, welcome to the show. A 10.5 on Otis Lawrence. Back to 121 once again, and pole position for Thomas Ronner.
Well, I didn't think that Thomas Ronhart, or anyone actually, was going to be able to get into the 1 minute 21s, but Thomas Ronhart, he proved me wrong, and he goes almost a 10.5 clear of anyone else. I mean, that is a fantastic lap time from Thomas Ronhart. Otis Lawrence, fair play to him, 1 minute 22.1 is not a time to scoff at whatsoever. And Alvaro Caraton, very close to him as well. Max Wiesel and Dylan Warren as well. Fair play to them in 4th and 5th. Isfan Pookie starts alongside Duncan Hoffland. It's Hoffland ahead of Pookie. Shanaka Clay, of course, invalidating on his lap. Not going to do him any favours in this coming into the race. Courtney N'Golo and Xander Van Dyken rounding off that top 10. But Josh, incredible into qualifying.
Incredible once again as we head over to a cloudy Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. And what an end to qualifying that was. We'll get you through the grid order right about now as we flick on over to the race director. If you have missed qualifying, where the hell have you been? Thomas Ronhaar gets the job done by a 10.5 to Otis Lawrence in P2. Alvaro Caraton sits P3 with Max Wiesel in P4. Dylan Warren sits P5 with Duncan Hoffland in P6. Isfan Pookie is 7th with Shanaka Clay in P8. Courtney N'Golo is 9th with Xander Van Dyken in P10. Joost Noordijk is 11th. Timon Shooter is P12. Peter Stachek is 13th. Jack West is 14th. Leroy Brown is 15th with Nardi Perez in 16th. Lewis Varch is 17th with Daniel Kelson in 18th. Felipe Sousa is 19th. And Olaf Soko at the back of the field in P20. We're ready to go for the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. Place your bets. We're ready to go then. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 red lights at Yas Marina. And they go out immediately, and we're racing here in Yas Marina. It's a good start from Thomas Ronhaar. Maybe a better one from Otis Lawrence. They're always going to go side by side. Thomas Ronhaar versus Otis Lawrence. Otis Lawrence takes the lead in the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. Right at the start, a beautiful start off the right-hand side. A better traction, the better grain, and Otis Lawrence takes the lead then. Thomas Ronhaar is close up on his tail. They almost go side by side heading into turn 2. Thomas Ronhaar switches the move. Down the inside he will go. The Dutchman on the Britishman. Where have we heard that before? Otis Lawrence versus Thomas Ronhaar as they head up towards the straight. They're side by side, absolutely untouchable at the moment. Max Wiesel and Alvaro Caraton right on the back battling as well. Here comes Otis Lawrence heading into turn 4 then. There goes Thomas Ronhaar down the inside. So close, they almost make contact. Otis Lawrence just keeps it going. But here comes Thomas Ronhaar round the outside. They're still side by side, heading up towards sector 2. Side by side, Thomas Ronhaar and Otis Lawrence as they head out towards the hairpin. Thomas Ronhaar down the inside. Otis Lawrence cannot respond and has to sit back into P2. But off the start, Ronhaar leads. Lawrence 2nd, Wiesel 3rd, Caraton 4th, Warren in 5th. Trouble at the back, that's Jack West having a poor start. He spun as well. But Thomas Ronhaar leads the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix.
Well, there it is. Thomas Ronhaar did very well to defend from Otis Lawrence, who got the better launch initially, but Thomas Ronhaar was able to fight back in towards turn number 5. A great battle between the pair of them. Max Wiesel also great off the line, able to jump Alvaro Caraton and then fended him off down that long straight as Timon Shooter has had some sort of contact further back behind. A lot of guys in a spot of bother. Louis Welch had a spin in the first corner. Jack West spinning in sector 2. We've had 3 drivers entering the pit lane. Piotr Stahalek and Timon Shooter and Felipe Sousa. Really unfortunate. A bit of scrappy start in this race, but on lap number 2, Thomas Ronhaar leading from Otis Lawrence. Max Wiesel in P3 as they're all now filing down this straight. A fantastic shot that I have now of all the cars following in tandem at the braking zone though. Thomas Ronhaar still leading the way. No one going for any risky overtakes, as the next time by they will be opening up the DRS. And Josh, surely that is when we're going to see some battlings taking place.
Absolutely so. Thomas Ronhaar versus Otis Lawrence. Take number 2. A little bit too far back this time around to make anything of it. We're still waiting for that DRS, which will come on the next lap, of course. And he will come towards the back straight then. Otis Lawrence versus Thomas Ronhaar. Once again, the Welshman, as Evan has rudely asked for me there. So I'll call him the Welshman instead of the British man. Thank you for the comment there. But Thomas Ronhaar versus Otis Lawrence, the Welshman, really heading up towards the line then. As he has out of the final couple of corners. The DRS will be enabled this lap then. Thomas Ronhaar rounds the final corner and enables lap number 3 and a 26.850 to put his fastest lap on the board once again. The DRS will be open this lap. Duro Brown beats that to a 26.687 on the hard compound tyres. Nardi Perez is in the box for a front line, for a front wing damage. as he heads up towards the line. And here comes Otis Lawrence. Will have a good opportunity to get something out of the back straight if he wants to use his DRS, riding the left-hand side. And Otis Lawrence, if he gets a good exit round about here, he can definitely pull something out there. He has actually got a pretty decent run on Thomas Ronha there. He's going to use his DRS coming down the back straight. Is he close enough to make something of it as they head up in towards the left-hand turn? Closing and closing and closing. Stachlik retires from the session. And Otis Lawrence just behind once again, as Peter Stachlik is the first retirement of the race.
Yeah, very silly from Piotr Stachlik to retire, because of course you get points for every single position and every point does matter, and that is especially the case for Team Haas, because they are within striking range of Race Clutch, and with them down in 13th and 14th, every point really does matter. And with Thomas Ronha leading, Piotr Stachlik could have added to what is already a very healthy points tally for the Team Haas, but he has retired. I don't believe he's going to get any points from this position, as Thomas Ronha, he keeps Otis Lawrence behind him, who's not really on the battery at all down at that main straight, or that back straight even, trying for an overtake. So I think that's already made his intentions clear, that he wants to stay behind for this first stint. Possibly once the pit stops begin to close in, that is when he's going to try and make a move. I think there's some decent going on here. It's Van Pookie ghosted on my screen. I'm not too sure if he's left the session at some point, but he is ghosted for me, and he is losing places. He's just reappeared on my screen now, but Courtney N'Golo able to ghost through him and take P8 in this one. Jos Nordyk almost did the exact same. However, it's Van Pookie. I think he should be okay to continue.
Yeah, definitely so. A little bit of ghosting in and out, just riding on board with him just to see what Jos Nordyk does, if he can see him or not. We'll flick on over to his POV right about now, losing a little bit of time. Simon Shooter, fastest lap of the Grand Prix for him on a 1:25.765. And I think Jos Nordyk just about can see him as we flick on over to Thomas Ronha and Otis Lawrence once again, side by side. They have done on the first lap. They head up towards the back straight, then the DRS will be enabled for the McLaren team. Let's have a look to the inside of the outside. They're going to stick behind just for a little while longer. Max Vissel and Alvaro Caraton have been plugging away once again. Parnell on a little bit of a back straight as well, just thinking of the championship between Williams and Parnell. 9th for Pookie, 15th for Jack West, 4th for Alvaro Caraton, and 7th for Shanaka Clay. Thomas Ronha looking for his third win of the E-Series season. Otis Lawrence looking for his first, and the second, I think, for Veloce as they round the final corner comes Otis Lawrence. Thomas Ronha closing in on Otis Lawrence, closing in on Thomas Ronha, just getting to about half a second at the moment. So Otis Lawrence just happy just to stick behind, just hopeful to stay in that DRS and can try and plug away once again. Thomas Ronha 75% on his ERS, Otis Lawrence 86. So Lawrence just been conserving a little bit more and just waiting for maybe the pit stops to maybe start his overtaking opportunities.
At the moment, all these guys just keeping in line, trying to settle into a rhythm. Although I think Alvaro Caraton has a different opinion on that one. He was on the battery down the straight, closing up towards the back of Max V, so he's going to be a little bit too far back to go for a dive bomb in towards turn number 6, but possibly on the run up towards 8 and 9. We'll see if he can go for an overtake, as they're all following in the DRS train. It does make it very difficult for an overtake to be made, as now he's closing down this straight. He's getting there, but of course with the DRS that Max V's was utilising on Otis Lawrence, not going to be able to close the gap enough to go for an overtake. But Max V's very deep in towards turn number 9. Alvaro Caraton close in the final sector. Very tricky, of course, to make an overtake through this part of the circuit. They're just going to keep in line with one another. Thomas Ronha comfortably leading this race from Otis Lawrence. Otis Lawrence, though, Josh, does have a little bit more battery. He's got 92% in his McLaren. Thomas Ronha only 78 in his Haas. Max Wiesel has had to be on the battery quite a bit so far in this race. Poor resource management from the TF10 side of things. He's 49% in his Red Bull. Alvaro Caraton has got a little bit more to utilise and try to attack. That could hurt the Red Bull later in, also the TF10 representative later on in this race. But on lap number 6, the laps are flying by, Josh. At this point, Thomas Ronha still leading the way.
Absolutely. Alvaro Caraton stuck in a TF10 sandwich at the moment. And here's that meat filling. Max Vissel currently P3. Dylan Warren in P5. So this could get a little bit tasty for the Williams representative of Alvaro Caraton, but nothing new he's experienced in his time. Max Vissel currently in P3, trying to hunt down Otis Lawrence and trying to defend from Alvaro Caraton. And Caraton just trying to pick his pieces up and try and dispatch them one by one. Thomas Ronha still leading this way. Otis Lawrence 3/10 back on the Haas at the moment as he heads up in towards the left-hander. And still, Otis Lawrence just happy to keep his distance at the moment, just hopeful just to keep his way through these couple of corners. He can still remain in that P2 position for as long as possible. Pit stops you're probably going to be looking at probably around 17, 18, maybe even less. We'll have to wait and see how the strategy will play out all the way through there, as Thomas Ronhart will start lap 7 of 29. We've still got loads of laps left until the pit stops, but at the moment Thomas Ronhart leads the way about half a second to Otis Lawrence, to Maximus on P3, Caraton to Warren, Hoffland, Clay, Cordningolo, Pookie, Nordyke, Van Dyken, Brown, Kjelsen, Soko, West, Welch, Sousa, Perez, Shooter, and Peter Stachelek is our only retirement of the race so far.
Lap number 7, though, laps, as I said earlier, Josh, are absolutely flying by at the moment. Current top 5, Thomas Ronhart, Otis Lawrence, Max Wiesel, Alvaro Caraton, and Dylan Warren, of course, finishing on the podium last time out in Canada. He's had a bit of a resurgence in recent weeks. I know he really does love Canada. I didn't know that he was really good around Abu Dhabi as well. He's closing to the back of Alvaro Caraton, who's got plenty of battery in the back of his Red Bull. We'll see if he can go for the move soon enough. Of course, DRS once again makes it very difficult to overtake once everyone is following in that train. It's only Thomas Ronhart who's not feeling the effects of it at the moment in that top 14. Of course, the rest of the grid has fanned out due to a number of different incidences so far in this Grand Prix. Josh, I saw at one point Shanaka Clay, he dropped out of the 1 second window to Duncan Hoffland in front of him. There's a bit of a gap forming between them there. He's been able to stabilise that margin to about 0.6 of a second, but early signs are a little bit worrying for Shanaka Clay. He's down in 7th position. He's struggling in qualifying, and he's struggling to keep up with the drivers in front of him. I wonder how this is going to affect him for the last few races, for the last few laps, sorry.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's going to be interesting how those strategies play off. Obviously, Felipe Sousa and Nardi Perez, just thinking of the tyres just very quickly. Felipe Sousa, Nardi Perez and Tyrone Shooter massively out of strategy as well. They're going to have to pray for a safety car near the end, but we'll have to wait and see. Everyone else pretty much on the same similar strategies. Jack West and Louis Welsh losing a little bit of time from their battling early on, as Dylan Warren closing up to the back of Alvaro Caraton. And Caraton might want a little bit of a piece of Max Wiesel as well as they head out into the left-hand side and flip back towards the refs. Alvaro Caraton, you're probably going to be looking as he might want to take Max Wiesel in the next couple of moments. Will run on board with the Williams Esports driver as he heads up in towards the left-hander. Not quite close enough to make something going on just yet. About 4/10 back on the TF10 representative. He's going to have to wait his turn for a little while longer. 68% battery plays to Max Wiesel's 45, so he's been using that ERS just to try and stay with Otis Lawrence and trying to defend from Alvaro Caraton as well. It's a big moment out of the final couple of corners for Alvaro Caraton, and now Dylan Warren is all over the back of the Williams driver, and all that work that Caraton has just done has been immediately erased away, and now he's under the threat of Dylan Warren.
Dylan Warren has been incredibly consistent so far in this race, not had to use much of the battery at all so far. He's got 87% in that Red Bull, plenty of resources to utilise on the back of Alvaro Caraton. We'll see if he's able to try for an overtake, headed down the straight in towards turn number 6. He's got to prioritise a good exit through turn number 5, the hairpin that the drivers are just coming up to. Max Wiesel has to do a good job of potentially trying to break the toe to Alvaro Caraton and allow for Dylan Warren to get that slipstream advantage headed down this straight, but it's been a bad exit from the Englishman, and closing to Alvaro Caraton. It's a little bit more difficult this time by as Caraton, I think he might be running also slightly lower wings, as you can see a battle further back behind. I believe that is Joost Noordijk and Istvan Pukki coming to blows. Joost Noordijk tried for the move. Istvan Pukki heavily defending to the inside line, and off the exit now of turn number 7. Will the Dutchman try for the move on the Hungarian runner, headed down in towards 8 and 9. He's on the battery on the back of the AlphaTauri, but closing into the corner is so difficult following in the DRS train. He's not going to be able to get that advantage, potentially in towards the 3rd sector. Oh dear, slight snap of overs there for Joost Noordijk, and that is going to kill any chance of an overtake that he has on Istvan Pukki. The pair of them used a lot of their battery in that little skirmish that they've had. They haven't gained anything out of it, and so now their resources looking thinner, and that could harm them later in the race.
It absolutely could, and Joost Noordijk just having a little bit of a moment, and just that little bit of an incident can just absolutely wipe away all your momentum, and that is pretty much done and dusted. Sander van Deeken as well, looking to try and pounce on his teammate Joost Noordijk as well, trying to join this little bit of a battle. Dylan Warren as well up front, trying to battle with Alvaro Caraton. Will stick with Joost Noordijk just for a little while longer, just to see if anything's going to go down. Heading into the back straight, he's very, very low on his ERS, so I highly doubt something will happen. They head out of the left-hand side, heading out of the exit. The DRS will be applied for the RHG man. We'll ride on board with him onto the T-count. I think he's just not quite far away, or close enough to make a move. Otis Lawrence as well, trying to plug away on Thomas Ronha, and Dylan Warren once again trying to plug away on Alvaro Caraton. He's lost a lot of time to Max Fissel from that little bit of a moment out of the exit. Here we go then, Dylan Warren eager to get past Alvaro Caraton from the use of that ERS. Look at the speed that Alvaro Caraton has, much lower wings than the Red Bull, I'm pretty sure, from that straight line speed. And Caraton just to seem a little bit quicker of a Williams car compared to that Red Bull in a straight line.
Yep, seems like Dylan Warren has just got to catch Alvaro Caraton out somewhere in the corners. He seems to be quicker through there, and he loses that time on the straight. And of course, I keep bringing this up, it is the DRS train that is greatly helping Alvaro Caraton at the moment, because I do believe Dylan Warren is the quicker driver for this at this point in the race. You know, he's keeping up with Caraton very well, closing that gap, and then losing it down on the DRS straight. So Dylan Warren will definitely be frustrated in his cockpit there. Alvaro Caraton though just got to keep it clean, because he will phase into this race. Still a long way left to go in this Grand Prix. We'll have to wait and see how it all turns out. Dylan Warren, Josh, is just going to be hoping for a mistake from the Spaniard, and we'll see how that impacts him. Is now headed onto the straight once again. Otis Lawrence getting close to Thomas Ronha, but he is happy to sit in the slipstream of the Dutchman. Of course, sitting behind the car in the DRS train, sitting behind the leader in the DRS train is very vital for saving tyres. Following in the wheel tracks, it's not going to be putting too much stress through his hards, and can go ever so slightly longer in this race. However, Otis Lawrence now on the battery, headed down in towards turn number 8 and 9. He looks at the outside line of Thomas Ronha, who doesn't defend that move all too much. And now Otis Lawrence on lap number 11, he leads this race. He gets ahead of Thomas Ronha. He didn't use any of his battery to defend that time by, so now we have a new leader. It is the Veloce Elite representative, the young Welshman of Otis Lawrence. Very nice move indeed.
Yeah, Otis Lawrence, he made sure he wanted to use that ERS. He's been plugging away all the through that first two sectors, and now inherits the lead on lap 11 of 29. We'll see how he can do to try and plug away. Max Fissel in P3, Thomas Ronha is in P2, Alvaro Caraton sits P4, Dylan Warren in P5. Otis Lawrence using that ERS to get past Thomas Ronha. 92% plays to Otis Lawrence's 86, so already Thomas Ronha knew that overtake was going to come, so he's been saving that ERS just to try and stick with him once more, as Otis Lawrence plugging away on the gap between himself and Max Fissel when he was behind, and he can once again try and plug and fight away again. Thomas Ronha will have the DRS on the McLaren once again, as he wants to make a move. Yellow flags further back, and I think that might be Jack West again. He's just been in the walls all the way through this race. So unlucky. And once again, not great points going to Parnell this time around. 9th and 15th so far. And Williams will definitely be looking to extend their advantage with Veloce. With that P1 will definitely do a bunch of good. The Thomas Shooter currently down in P19. Not looking good so far for the second driver. But Otis Lawrence, so far, looking for his first win in the E-Series.
And we'll hope that he is able to catch it. Of course, Jack West, saw good things from him in Miami earlier on in this season. I believe that was round number 4 or 5 from him. Fallen off ever since. Really unlucky for him at this evening. It's looking like 15th is going to be the best position that he can take, unless a safety car does come out. Of course, we have seen safety cars here in the past. It is very easy to hit the wall in that final sector. If you're not careful enough, you could be in that outside wall, losing your tyre, potentially causing a safety car. But on lap number 13 of 29, we are nearing the halfway point in this race. It'll be after lap number 14 is over, in midway through lap 15. That is when we are officially halfway through this race. Otis Lawrence still leading the way from Thomas Ronha. He was able to capture that P1 just a few laps ago. Thomas Ronha, though, happy to sit in behind. When will we see the pit stops? We're not too far off it, Josh. I think it's going to be around about lap number 17, 18, that's when we're going to see these front runners coming into the pit lane, fitting on the medium tyres and going to the end.
Yeah, definitely so, and I might just sense a Thomas Ronhaar overtake here. He's been using a little bit of his battery just to try and keep out down this back straight. He'll have to DRS once again. I think he just lost a little bit of momentum into the chicane. And he's going to have to wait once again to try and make that move on Otis Lawrence. And as you said, Dan, yeah, probably looking maybe about 5 laps until we see the medium compound tyres starting to come in. And we'll see where they will come out into the next couple of laps then. Thomas Ronhaar still behind Otis Lawrence at the moment. Max Vissel 5 tenths back on Thomas Ronhaar from Caraton, about 4 tenths back on Vissel, and Warren about 4.5 tenths back on Caraton as well, as they head out of lap 13 to start lap number 14. Otis Lawrence once again the lead car in this one, as we try and have a look what the nearest battle is, and it is probably the battle for the lead. 4.5 tenths between Otis Lawrence and Thomas Ronhaar, flickering within 92% of ERS is Otis Lawrence, and pretty much the same going for Thomas Ronhaar as well. We flick on over to the right hand side, and back to the left hand side goes Otis Lawrence, trying to plug away as much as he can to Thomas Ronhaar, and he's been doing quite a good job. He's about 5 tenths back, 5 tenths in front of the Haas man. A little bit of a moment out of the exit, but gets the job done out of the pure speed of that McLaren. And once again, Otis Lawrence will lead this one away. Caraton closing in on Max Vissel as well. 3 tenths, 4 tenths almost, flickering in and out. And once again, he has to be stuck behind the back of that Red Bull car.
Yep, he is in a Red Bull sandwich at the minute. Alvaro Caraton, he pushes to get ahead of Max Vissel, but then all of a sudden Dylan Warren applies pressure to him, and he has to start looking in his mirrors. So it is a bit of a tricky situation for Alvaro Caraton. However, it is going to be very hard for the Red Bull drivers, the TF10 drivers, but it is key that they are both Red Bulls, because of course they're going to have to potentially double stack. Dylan Warren will have to go later in this race, given that in real life F1 it is the driver in front that does get priority, and that rule typically tends to translate over to the F1 esports side of things. So Max Vissel, he will be pitting ahead of his teammate. Dylan Warren might not be liking his tyres at the end of this stint, but he can't box behind his teammate. Double stacks are impossible on this game, as Dan Van Dyken becomes the first runner on the set of the hard compound tyres to come into the pit lane for a fresh set of the mediums. Will be undercutting his rivals. Of course, he'll have to deal with the warm-up that is very difficult indeed on this F1 22 game, but once they come up to temperature, they'll be a lot quicker than the hard runners, as Nardi Perez and Timer Shooter both pretty much simultaneously take 3-second time penalties for multiple warnings. I wonder if that's going to affect any guys potentially fighting at the sharp end of the order.
Yeah, definitely so. It's going to be interesting. So Gazana Van Deeken as well is the first one to box from the top 10, which might prick up the ears of everyone else. So Thomas Ronhaar was plugging away on Otis Lawrence just there, but he's sort of backed out once again. He's into the slipstream of the McLarens. He wants to make this move. He wants to be in the lead going into the pit stop. If he does want to make the move, no, he doesn't. He's going to stay behind once again as Max Vissel starts to gain again and trying to gap Alvaro Caraton. He's starting to push a little bit more, has that Red Bull, as these guys start to push a little bit more, start to sort of make a little bit more of defensive moves on each other. And now Max Vissel maybe nursing those tyres as well, as the tyres start to become into a big factor as well. Flying towards the right hand side, Otis Lawrence stays out. Max Vissel, however, comes in from the top 3. So the TF10 are the first to bite the bullet, the first ones to come in, and Max Vissel will be on to the medium compound tyres alongside Corden Ngolo and Joost Noordijk. So in comes Max Vissel for the mediums, and now it's a guessing game to when Otis Lawrence and Thomas Ronhaar will decide to make another move.
I think he was held ever so slightly, unfortunately, for Max Vissel in the pit lane, for other cars coming out in front of him. But one of the telltale signs that drivers are pitting in at the end of this lap is when they use the battery. Alvaro Caraton is one of those names. He's on the battery off the exit of turn number 5. Dylan Warren as well is using a lot of his ERS. Otis Lawrence and Thomas Ronhaar as well. I think all of these guys might be planning to come in at the end of this lap, and of course you just recharge it once you're in the pit lane. That's why on your in lap it is best to just utilize the battery as much as possible. You're going to get it back anyways, as Dylan Warren closing to the back of Alvaro Caraton. That particular camera shot actually made it look like he was a lot closer than he actually was. As on lap number 16, pit stops finally beginning here. We'll see where they file out in regards to Max Wiesel, who's probably getting held up ever so slightly by Jack West. However, he's going to be using the DRS and the slipstream headed down the straight. If he gets by Jack West, it's going to be good for him. But if Jack West defends, it's going to be very poor for Max Wiesel. Is now around the outside of turn number 9. He's made that move stick with much grippier tyres. Is now Otis Lawrence peeling into the pit lane. Thomas Ronhart, Alvaro Caraton staying out. Warren, Hoffland, Clay all coming in to the box. We know that Thomas Ronhart likes staying out a little bit longer. Alvaro Caraton, though, is going to be following him through here.
Yeah, Thomas Ronhart decides to stay out, so does Alvaro Caraton as well. Istvan Pukki and Leroy Brown all staying out. Lawrence, Warren, Hoffland, Clay and Kjelton all coming into the box. Otis Lawrence will come out, and I think he will remain P5 by quite some distance, or no, P6 actually, as Max Wiesel has actually jumped a lot of them. So the undercut has worked in the TF10 camp, and Max Wiesel now takes the net lead of the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. What has Otis Lawrence got to offer? Don't think a lot, because those tyres are absolutely stone cold. Coming out of that box, he's going to use his ERS as much as he can to try and catch up to the Red Bull, but it will be all down to the pace of the tyres. As you can see, they're trying to warm up those tyres as best as he can, and still nothing to obey. And Otis Lawrence has lost the position to Max Wiesel, which is now going to have to cope up the ears of Thomas Ronhart, who's going to drive the tyres off that Haas compounder tyre, as a little bit more interesting there.
Dylan Warren has lost a number of places. I think Jack West maybe defending a little bit too hard on his position. He has every right to do so. He is currently in P8, but he's on a lot older tyres than all these guys in front of him. So is it really justified to be trying to stay ahead? He gets out of the way now as Thomas Ronhart and Alvaro Caraton come into the pit lane. Yellow flags, that is for Jack West. Just moving out of the way of everyone. Dylan Warren is going to be not happy with him, because now he is behind Duncan Hoffland and Shanaka Clay through here, as we'll see where these guys emerge in regards to Max Wiesel, who's just coming out of the final corner now. He's got Otis Lawrence just behind him as well, and a big gap to Duncan Hoffland in behind. But Max Wiesel is going to be comfortably in the lead of this race. Thomas Ronhart just exiting the pit lane now, and a big margin between himself and Otis Lawrence. I think Duncan Hoffland might just about come out ahead of him. He's going to actually be behind Thomas Ronhart. Shanaka Clay gets ahead of Alvaro Caraton. Caraton's going to have difficulties warming up these mediums, but once they get up to temperature, I'd imagine there's going to be a switch in the Williams camp. But on lap number 18, the grid has been shaken up. Otis Lawrence, he is in P2 for the time being, but looking to the inside at the end of turn number 6. He gets by on Max Wiesel, who will have a healthy dosage of DRS, potentially attack down in towards turn number 9. He looks to be too far back for the time being. So now Josh on lap number 18 of 29. Otis Lawrence leading the way from Max Wiesel in P2. Thomas Ronhart in 3rd.
Absolutely so. Brilliant strategies from Veloce in TF10, and Thomas Ronhart is now 2 seconds back on the battle that he's been fighting for about 0.3 of a second. Now it's dropped to about 2 seconds. So it's not been the greatest of strategies for Thomas Ronhart to go out longer, and it's benefited for Otis Lawrence and Max Wiesel. They head out of the exits. Max Wiesel currently in P2, obviously with absolutely pretty much zero battery on that Red Bull car. Otis Lawrence with a little bit more, about 66, sorry, in fast lap of the Grand Prix, 25.164, 67% on that McLaren, about 20% on the Red Bull as well. So Max Wiesel held the lead for a little bit, but now it's been taken off him from Otis Lawrence. Just that extra bit of pace on the 1 lap fresher tyres and the better battery. And now Otis Lawrence has the chance to get away from the pack and win the PSGL E-Series Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. And he's got 10 laps to do so. Duncan Hoffland currently sat in P4, trying to hunchback on Thomas Ronhart for P3. Shanaka Clay sat in P5. Caraton sat in P6. Not had the greatest of strategies. Alvaro Caraton still in Warren as well. He lost a few positions, started to gain them back, about 5 tenths back on Alvaro Caraton at the moment for the gap for P7. This is now all for track. Everyone is pitted for some fresh set of tyres. So it's now a fact to see who will go right until the end. 10 laps to go. And Otis Lawrence leads the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix.
Yeah, we've had an overtake for P10. It's Istvan Pukki getting by on Xander Van Dijken, who does have a time penalty to his name. It's 3 lap fresher tyres on the Alpha Tower, and he gets by on the RAG representative of Xander Van Dijken. A nice enough move around the outside of turn number 9 puts the Parnell representative inside the top 10 in what has been a pretty difficult day for the team so far. Of course, Jack West a long way off the back of anyone else at this point. P15 looking likely to be the position that he finishes in this Grand Prix. Is now fastest laps beginning to be churned out by all of the runners. And it is Vanbuki indeed actually to take the fastest lap. As I don't know actually if there is a fastest lap. I think there is fastest lap point here in the PSGL E Series. That'll be an extra point headed back the way of Parnell. We'll close that gap ever so slightly to Williams, who are running, Josh, pretty solid race so far. They're currently P5 and P6. They might be looking to do a swap down at the Williams camp because Alvaro Carreton was on the battery, headed off the exit of turn number 5, but in towards turn number 6 they go. I think they're happy to sit in the positions that they are for the time being. How much will the tyres affect these guys later in this race? Alvaro Carreton got 1 lap fresher tyres on than his teammate. Shanaka Clay's not making it easy for him, and Alvaro Carreton has to look to the outside line. He makes the move on his teammate. He's up in towards P5. I do believe that was a planned overtake there. Shanaka Clay didn't back off there or anything, but he didn't use any battery to defend from his teammate. Carreton's up to P5.
Absolutely. So switcheroo for Williams, and pretty much telling there. Both low, very low on ERS, but Shanaka Clay off the DRS, going on the back straight, and Alvaro Carreton swoops past his teammates and heading up to P5. Now can try and push back on Duncan Hoffman, currently running in P4. Thomas Ronner is slowly caught back up to the DRS of Max Whistle. 1.1 is the gap now. He just needs about 2/10. And he can get back into the DRS and start fighting with the front runners once again. About 7-8 laps still to go in this Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, and Otis Lawrence still leads this one by 0.6 of a second to Max Whistle in P2. On for a really good result. Our TF10 tonight, 2nd and 7th. Max Whistle P2. Dylan Warren in P7. Still something could derail as Dylan Warren starts to push away, trying to close up to Shanaka Clay in P6. As Otis Lawrence starts to defend a little bit harder on Max Whistle as well for the lead of this Grand Prix. Thomas Ronhar will have a look to see what he's doing so far. 40% on that ERS. He's going to have to be careful. He's going to have to just try and save up as much as he can, as Otis Lawrence has pretty much been saving this whole time. 70% to his name. Max Whistle on about 25%. So he's been trying to push as much as he can to try and catch up to Otis Lawrence. Maybe try to make a move in the upcoming laps. Meanwhile, Daniel Kelson and Xander Van Deeken having a little bit of a battle of their own. It's gone to the race coach driver of Daniel Kelson. Moves up into P11.
Yeah, it seems like all these guys just settling into their rhythms, and everyone's trying to file towards the front. Of course, Race Clutch have had a pretty difficult day with their qualifying bans, but they are making the most of it. P11 and P13, it's not great points, but it is better than what they were predicted in this race. It was going to be very, very tough from the start, and the pair of them coped brilliantly so far this evening, and we'll see if Daniel Shelson is able to close up to the rear of Isfan Pookie, as on lap number 22 they are headed on. Otis Lawrence from Otis Lawrence from Max Wiesel with Thomas Ronhart in tow. He's found himself in that DRS train, and he has brought these two, who were about 2.5 seconds clear of anyone else, back into the fight. We'll see what they can do as they head down this back straight. Max Wiesel sitting in the wheel tracks of Otis Lawrence as best he can in this one. Otis Lawrence has saved up so much of the battery though. I've just actually noticed that now. 73% for Otis Lawrence. Max Wiesel has got 30%, and Thomas Ronhar with 40% as well. So it is very difficult for him this evening. It's been very difficult for these guys saving the battery. Otis Lawrence doing very well.
Absolutely so, as this Van Pookie gets past Corningolo for P9 just in your picture there. Otis Lawrence is, he's been doing absolutely fantastically to keep this gap where it is, about half a second. Duncan Hoffland with a 3-second time penalty added to his name. That is big for Williams. 4th and 5th now they will come, and VSR, who were on for something decent there, and now has sort of slipped away in their fingers. 4th was Duncan Hoffland, who might come down to quite a little bit more, maybe outside the top 10, you never know. Have to wait and see after the race though. Otis Lawrence 7/10 now on Max Whistle, and God, is this kid fast. And now Max Whistle will have to think about something else because he's now under threat from Thomas Ronhaar in P3. And Thomas might be looking for something up his sleeve. We're right on board with the Dutchman now. He's going to head the DRS and the ERS on the Housemans. He wants to have a look to the inside heading up there. I think might be a little bit too far back this time around. He's going to have to think of something else heading into the next latter of a lap. Otis Lawrence 4/10 on Max Whistle at the moment. Max Whistle pretty much almost not a lot of ERS compared to everyone else. Otis Lawrence on 76, Thomas Ronhaar on 46. So he's the weakest of the lot. Duncan Hoffman with a penalty as well. Now under pressure from Alvaro Caraton as well. This could be a switch for P4 and track down the inside goes Alvaro Caraton. And easy as you like. And Alvaro Caraton, the Spaniard, makes it through into P4. That's one of the easiest moves he will make in his in this race so far. And Caraton up into P4.
Nicely done from Alvaro Caraton. Of course, he's got not that much battery left in that Williams for the time being. Thomas Ronhaar has been able to charge up his ERS. He got 51% in the back of his Haas. Let's see what he can do as he is on the back of him. As oh dear, I think there's been a crash somewhere. Joost Noordijk, he's not hit the wall anyway. He's spun in that third sector. I believe that's the exit of turn at number 13. Been able to rejoin the circuit, but he is down the order now, outside of the top 10. He's got Leroy Brown for company at the moment, who's sitting in P14. It's not going well for RHG this evening. They struggle as the pair of them are outside of that top 10, and Xander Van Dijken with a 3-second time penalty to his name, not making his life any easier at this moment, but very unfortunate from Joost Noordijk. Now they head on towards lap number 24. The laps are beginning to die down. Max Viesel's had to look in his mirrors for the last few laps because Thomas Ronhaar is beginning to close the gap. He is getting very close to the rear of his Red Bull. The TF10 representative might have to burn some of that battery, maybe put a car between himself and Thomas Ronhaar. But of course, it's going to be very difficult to get by on Otis Lawrence, who has 3/4 of the battery charged up, ready to deploy if there is any battling that we can see. As this Van Pookie gets by on Dylan Warren. He's come alive in this last stint, making lots of moves, lots of overtakes. Dylan Warren, ever since his incident, not really looked the same so far in this race. This Van Pookie, he reaps the rewards of his hard effort and gets on to P7.
Absolutely so. It's Van Pookie, a few more points heading to Parnell's way. Still going to be outscored by Williams by quite a bit tonight. 7th and 15th for Parnell, 4th and 6th for Williams, which will probably be turning out to 4th and 5th after Duncan Hoffman's penalties. We head over to lap 25 of 29, and Thomas Ronhaar can smell blood on Max Whistle at the moment. P3 is up for grabs. P2 is up for grabs for Thomas Ronhaar. 2.5 tenths between the two of them. He breaks hard heading into the left-hander, and Thomas Ronhaar might have a good slingshot out of the exit and maybe wants to try and make his way past the Red Bull. He's using a lot of his ERS to try and come past. They're going to go side by side. Thomas Ronhaar versus Max Whistle. We flick on over to the Red Bull now, about side by side. It's going to be very, very tight. Thomas Ronhaar breaking late. So is Max Whistle. And Max Whistle looking for that switch back, but Thomas Ronhaar just about gets the job done. And the Dutchman is up through into P2 and heading on Otis Lawrence in his next couple of laps. And Thomas Ronhaar takes P2 away from Max Whistle.
It's going to be an uphill battle for Thomas Ronhaar to get by on Otis Lawrence, who has looked to be overall the quickest driver this evening so far. Of course, he topped Q1 and Q2, wasn't quite able to do it in the final parts of qualifying. We'll see how he copes as he's got immense amounts of pressures on his shoulder. Veloce at the moment not really in the place but they would want to be. I think they're 5th at the moment in the standings, with the top 3 ever beckoning. They really do need to get themselves together, get these points, and it is crucial they take victory in this one. Is now headed on towards lap number 26 of 29. Thomas Ronhaar got it all to do for Haas. We'll see what he can do as he's got 54% in the battery, got a little bit less than Otis Lawrence, but he does have a lap fresher tyres than the Veloce representative. So I'd say, Josh, that these two are in a dead heat for the time being. We'll see what they do as they head on towards this straight for the 26th time in this race. And Otis Lawrence seems to have pulled a gap to Thomas Ronhaar to the point where Thomas Ronhaar can't really pressure and overtake. So good stuff from the Veloce representative. As now Shanaka Clay getting by on Duncan Hoffman, who is seemingly struggling at this point in the Grand Prix. Shanaka Clay has also come alive in the latter parts of this race. Will Duncan Hoffman try and respond by going for the movers? Now we've got a yellow flag in sector 1. That'll be Louis Welch Unfortunately, he's had a spin out of turn number 3. He's going slowly through there. His former VSR teammate, Duncan Hoffland, struggling at this point, though, and now he's down into P6.
Yeah, a little bit of an interesting moment there for Duncan Hoffland. 3 seconds to his name as well. And we'll put him at the moment down to P7. Isfan Pukki will be up to P6. We'll have to wait and see if any penalties will apply to Isfan Pukki after the race, if he had any incidences. As we move over to lap 27 of 29, 3 laps to go in the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. And it's Otis Lawrence versus Thomas Ronhaar versus Max Wissel versus Alvaro Carreton versus Shanaka Clay right until the end of this Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. Nadi Perez picks up a 3-second time penalty as well, currently riding in 19th. Thomas Ronhaar has been solo so far, with Peter Stachelek's early retirement from this race. It's cost him a few points going to Haas's way. Thomas Ronhaar currently riding in P2. 28 points will be going to Haas's final score, as Ronhaar now in the DRS of Otis Lawrence. Excuse me, does he want to have a look to that inside? I don't think he's going to be close enough. No, he's not. He's going to wait a little while longer as he flick over to the left and flick over to the right. And I wonder if Thomas Ronhaar is just going to be charging the battery for these next 2-ish laps, 1.5 laps. And go all out for the last couple of laps. Otis Lawrence has been doing the same. 75% on the McLaren and about 67% on the Haas. As Max Wissel starting to charge a little bit more, 40% on that Red Bull. 2 laps to go. It's going to get very, very tasty. Stay tuned.
Yep, and they have to use this battery very soon. Of course, there's only 2 laps this time by left to go in this race. And they'll regret it. They'll be kicking themselves, Josh, if they don't use all the battery to defend or attack in these last few moments of the race. So really, they've got to pull it out now. They've got to try something risky, go somewhere for an overtake. Is this going to reach its climax? I'd say on this lap here, Otis Lawrence leading from Thomas Ronhaar, as it has been for the majority of this race. Ever since on lap number 11, Otis Lawrence took the lead of the race from Thomas Ronhaar. He's been very consistent ever since then. Thomas Ronhaar with 1 lap fresher tyres. Will that benefit him more in the end? We'll have to wait and see. But there is a 0.4 of a second gap between the pair of them. Thomas Ronhaar takes a later apex on Otis Lawrence through the hairpin, and now they're weaving, trying to break the toe down the straight. Thomas Ronhaar can't keep up with him, and now headed in towards the braking zone. Will Thomas Ronhaar send a move up the inside? There's no braking markers whatsoever on the right hand side, as now Thomas Ronhaar takes he brakes a little bit earlier than Otis Lawrence, who I think, Josh, is beginning to feel the pressure, because here comes Ronhaar now, opening up the DRS and following in the slipstream of the Veloce Elite representative. Thomas Ronhaar looking to the outside line for the lead of this race, headed in towards turn number 9. They're going to run side by side. It's Lawrence on the inside, Ronhaar on the outside, as Otis Lawrence holds onto the position for the time being. Thomas Ronhaar, though, he's not going to give it up easily. Headed in towards sector 3. Otis Lawrence, he maintains the lead. Ronhaar, though, he's got 1 more lap to get it done.
Smart moves from Otis Lawrence, trying to make Thomas Ronhaar attack there. And now he's down on the ERS, but so is Otis Lawrence. We're going to have 1 lap left of racing here in Abu Dhabi. Place your bets. Here we go. It's Otis Lawrence versus Thomas Ronhaar for the race win here in Abu Dhabi in the PSGL Series. Round number 7, Otis Lawrence or Thomas Ronhaar for the title. Here we go then. Max Wissel in the background as well, trying to catch up if anything goes wrong. Otis Lawrence versus Thomas Ronhaar right until the end. Ronhaar using that ERS as best as he can as they head up towards the hairpin. It's still Otis Lawrence in the lead, but so far by a slim margin. Thomas Ronhaar, he knows he's notoriously late on the brakes there, and now can try and catch up. Otis Lawrence immediately going defensive, weaving like crazy down the back straight. Otis Lawrence versus Thomas Ronhaar for the lead of the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. Side by side, left to right. Ronhaar chooses the right hand side. Right on the outside he will go. Not enough there. Otis Lawrence running on fumes on these ERS fronts. They're 10%, about 5% now. Thomas Ronhaar versus Otis Lawrence. They're going to go side by side up into the hairpin. Otis Lawrence without the DRS. Is this going to fall to Thomas Ronhaar? Yes, it is. On the last lap of the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, Thomas Ronhaar takes the lead late on, 29-29, and Thomas Ronhaar is inches away from a 3rd race win here in the PSGL Series. To the right hand side we go. Thomas Ronhaar, it's been a great race from Otis Lawrence, but it's just fall short to Thomas Ronhaar. The race win is inches away from Thomas Ronhaar. He's going to get it. The race winner, there's only one. It's Thomas Ronhaar as he rounds the final corner. It's going to the Dutchman. Thomas Ronhaar wins the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. Otis Lawrence finishes P2, and it's Max Vissel in P3, Carroton in P4, Shanaka Clay is 5th, Isfan Buki is P6, Duncan Hoffland is P7, Warren in 8th, Corden N'Golo 9th, Daniel Kjelsen rounds out the top 10, and that is pretty similar to Abu Dhabi 2021. Much fairer is Thomas Ronha winning on track.
Yeah, Thomas Ronha, fantastic showing from him. Ever the opportunist, he picked his opportunity perfect this evening, and commiserations to Otis Lawrence. He did his best this evening. He led such a long time this evening. He really does have to. He's got to be proud of himself this evening. Really well done as well to Max Vissel, taking TF10's second podium in a row. They are really becoming a factor in the PSGL E Series in the second half of the season. But that brings us to the end. It was a very exciting indeed Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. Fantastic showing from Thomas Ronha this evening. Himself and Otis Lawrence, they really did just look to be in a class of their own, and they were able to fight it out right until the last lap. It was incredible showing from them.
Absolutely, another brilliant race and another deserved Thomas Ronha victory. Otis Lawrence will be gutted with P2, but another fair race as it was. Whoever in the chat putting that, please stop, because it was absolutely fair nonetheless. Thomas Ronha wins once again on track in this Abu Dhabi once again, and we move over to Singapore next week for round number 8, and it's 38 points, I think that is, to the Haas's name. And they will get the top spot going. We'll move over to the results then. It's Thomas Ronha who leads the way in this race to Otis Lawrence in P2. Max Vissel is P3, a great podium for TF10 once again. Alvaro Carreton sits P4 with Shanaka Clay in P5. Isfan Buki is P6. Fastest lap going to him. That is crucial for their championship charge for Parnell. Duncan Hoffland sitting P7 with a 3-second time penalty added to his name. Dylan Warren in P8. Corden N'Golo is 9th. Daniel Kjelsen is P10. Olaf Soko is 11th for Xander Van Deeken in 12th. Leroy Brown is 13th for Joost Noordijk in 14th. Jack West is 15th. Louis Welsh 16th. Felipe Sousa 17th. Simon Shooter is 18th. Nadi Perez is 19th. And Peter Statschek, our only retirement of the race early on, as we head over to, hopefully we can get some interviews in. But Dan, it was a great race and ended right on the last lap, and Thomas Ronha got the victory.
Yeah, Thomas Ronha really did pick his opportunity at the perfect moment there, and Otis Lawrence really defenseless on that final lap, given that he only had about 10% in his battery. And of course, once you get sub 10%, you see the blinking red light. That means, of course, your ERS power is essentially halved. Thomas Ronha was able to take advantage of that to its fullest extent and move to the outside. Otis Lawrence, he did his best to defend on the final lap by weaving on that straight, but it wasn't enough. Really unfortunate from him. He did have a fantastic showing this evening, and would love to hear from the pair of them and Max Vissel as well. It's quite funny. It's actually two of the youngest drivers, I think, on the grid, paired up with I think Max Vissel, the oldest driver racing this evening. He's certainly up there in age, so it's a big contrast in the ability of in the age of these guys. It's such a similar ability, and it is incredible to see. I'm trying to have a look if either of them are in the waiting room. Doesn't seem like it for the time being. I really do hope that we get to hear from them.
Yeah, absolutely. Once we start to get people into an interview, we'll take a short break from our sponsors, GT Omega. Stay tuned. We'll be back, hopefully, for some interviews. Welcome back then to the PSGL E Series. Hopefully we can get a few interviews in there, but it was an absolutely fantastic race once again. Won by Thomas Ronha, and Dan, we'll have some thoughts from you. Obviously, right at the end, Thomas Ronha getting the job done there down the inside, but he was absolutely flying all the way through that race, and obviously the strategy didn't go his way, but he managed to get the job done.
Yeah, I think that is down to his time management. Of course, having that one lap fresher tyre than Otis Lawrence really is the difference maker around this circuit. He's done very well indeed. So I think that Thomas Ronheim has got to be pleased with his performance, and he was able to take victory from Otis Lawrence, who did have a very strong showing. I'm going to stress that very heavily. I think this man, he really is the future of F1 esports. You do really have to keep an eye on him, because a performance like that, competing for the esports rookie of the year, just 14 years old, he's got to be very happy with how he is this evening. As I'm still looking, Josh, no one's in the interview room at the moment. We won't be being joined by Max Wiesel, unfortunately. Hopefully we can hear from Otis Lawrence and Thomas Ronhall, though.
Yeah, Max Wiesel won't be joining us. He's gone to visit his girlfriend, which is always nice to hear. But hopefully we'll see something from Thomas Ronhall or Otis Lawrence. But no one seeming to be coming in there. But yeah, talking about Otis Lawrence there, absolutely fantastic drive once again from him. He can't be deflated with that P2. Did everything right, but just right at the end, Thomas Ronhall with the faster ERS, with the faster DRS, with everything just going towards him, and it just worked out for him, the fresher tyres as well. But Otis will have to go again at Singapore, but if he is chosen by Veloce as well. But yeah, he's definitely the one to watch. 15 years of age, I think he is right about now. But he's got one more year left in him. He's got more than a year left until he can't qualify for F1 Esports Challenges. Then next year he can try and practice with all his consent. But Otis, definitely one of the futures as well. But you have to keep an eye on him there. Not sure if we will get an interview anywhere, but I think if we call it in the next 5-ish or so seconds, then we might be having to go early. But Dan, I think we're going to have to call that early. But Dan, any last thoughts mean,
it was just a very fun race to watch. Wasn't too many battling throughout of it, but the battles that we did get to see were very exciting indeed. And around Singapore next week, it is definitely going to be a very tough race. We'll see some of the more technical drivers coming out through there. We'll have to wait and see. I'm very excited for next Friday for the Singapore Grand Prix. Season's coming to an end very quickly. We've only got 3 races left to go.
Yeah, only 3 races left to go. It's absolutely flown by in the PSGL series. It's always absolutely fantastic. All the racing there. I think we're going to have to cut that one short, unfortunately. I don't think we are going to see any interviews tonight, which is unfortunate. But thank you all very much for watching. That's been the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix here for round number 7. We'll be here next week for Singapore at round number 8. And then obviously Monday is the PlayStation platforms going out for the Bahrain Grand Prix, I think it is, on PlayStation F1 on Mondays. Join Jess Games over there for the lead commentary tonight. And then Wednesday is the big one. Of course, Barry Borman versus Thomas Ronhall for the title. 3 points in it. I'll be going all the way down to the line, George Morgan and Jack Canan for that one. And then we join on Friday for the PSGL series here at Singapore. Thursday is F2, F3, F4 alongside that. But that has been the PSGL series at Abu Dhabi. Thank you all very much for watching. Thank you all for keeping your thoughts respectful, and to everyone who are taking the hate comments, maybe take a look yourself in the mirror. But thank you all very much for watching. We will see you next week for Singapore, and we will see you all later for next week at Singapore. Good night.